Hello students, welcome to this lesson. The objective of this unit is for you to understand the structure of the reading, writing, and speaking sections. This lesson has been divided in 3 parts. We will be looking at structure, question types, and general skills of these sections. So let's begin, and we're going to begin looking at the objectives and what will you learn at the end of this unit. And what you will learn is what is the structure of the reading, writing, and speaking sections, what question types are there, and what is the time for each question. So let's begin by answering some of these questions. How are the reading, writing, and speaking sections divided? And let's begin with reading. The ITEP reading section has 2 parts. In part 1, we have an intermediate level passage of about 250 words in length, followed by 4 multiple choice questions. In part 2, we have an upper level passage, about 450 words in length, followed by 6 multiple choice questions. That's for reading. What about writing? The examinee has a total of 25 minutes to complete the writing section. Part 1 of the writing section presents a simple situation or topic, which the examinee will use to write a short note or letter. In Part 2, the examinee will write a longer essay expressing an opinion on a topic and supporting an answer. And for speaking, we have that speaking is the second type of performance assessment required on all ITEP Plus exams. Like writing, speaking is a complex skill that includes many of the basic language skills already discussed, especially listening, reading, grammar, and writing skills all play a role in producing a good quality speaking response. Okay, now let's begin analyzing the reading section. And as you know, the reading section is divided in 2 parts. It takes 20 minutes to do this section. Part 1, you have a 250-word passage and 4 multiple choice questions. And in Part 2, 400 to 450-word passage and 6 multiple choice questions. And only in ITEP Slate, we have a Part 3. Okay, now, let's go to reading Part 1. 3 out of the 4 questions in reading Part 1 will be the type of multiple choice questions. Like this one. This is an example of the multiple choice questions. The second type of question in reading Part 1, you will choose a new sentence to add to the passage. There will be 1 question of this type in each set. And here you have an example of what that type, this second type of question, looks like, where you have to choose a sentence to add into the passage. Okay, reading Part 2, question type 1. The active reader will recognize that the main idea is meant to be a surprise. The examinee will also understand the author's purpose, to eliminate an illusion or to show that the common understanding is false. And this is the way it looks like. So it says, the word mythological, as used in the second paragraph, most closely means the same as So here, based on the reading, you will have to say what the word mythological means in the passage. So that's question type 1 for reading part 2 and what it looks like. Question type 2 for reading part 2, the types of multiple choice questions in reading part 2 require the examinee to make an educated guess to understand the author's suggestion or purpose. And this is what it looks like. Okay? And it says, the author mentions the example of cladistics in the last paragraph in order 2. So you're looking at here at intentions, the author's purpose for saying this. So here, active reading really works. This is where you have to apply the active reading skills that we're going to take a look in a little bit more detail further on. Okay? So, let's continue. Question type 3 for reading part 2. This type of question requires the examinee to use his/her understanding of the logical flow of ideas to correctly position the sentence. So here is an example of the second type of question in reading part 2. And after reading the passage, you have to insert a new sentence in the passage where it makes sense. And here you have the sentence that says, thus a horse and a donkey, although appearing similar, are not the same species, since their mating leads to a sterile animal, the mule. This sentence you have to position in the correct place in the passage. So that's why it's important to have an understanding of the flow of ideas. And again, here, active reading comes to the rescue. Okay, let's continue. Well, and we have an extra skill that we need to use. It says, first, determine the meaning of the sentence. Second, where does it fit? Right? Using this understanding of the flow of ideas. Okay. Let's go on. Question type 4 for the reading part 2. It says, after you read the passage, you will choose 3 sentences that best summarize the main points of the passage. So you have to summarize the passage with 3 sentences. And to do this, the ability to summarize involves understanding main points of the passage, differences between main ideas and supporting details, main ideas expressed in different words, author's purpose, and suggested meaning. And after this summarizing, what do you do next? You answer the multiple choice. Okay? And here you have 2 questions that show us how this works. Okay, so let's go on. And now, let's go on with what is active reading. That is very important in order to answer these questions. The best form of practice to improve these skills is for you to learn a reading technique known as active reading, described as an interactive process that helps readers achieve better comprehension and recall of their reading materials. Active reading can be practiced in everything you read. The key points should be reviewed, understood, and applied. And to read actively is to Mentally rephrase the main ideas. Question the meaning of each sentence. Question the author's reasons for using each sentence. Summarize the main points. And follow the logical flow of ideas. So these are the steps in active reading. Now, here we have some general reading skills, okay? And the Part 1 reading passages are written at a lower reading level than that in Part 2. Multiple choice questions typically focus on literal meaning of ideas and vocabulary. Only very basic comprehension skills are required. Cross out obviously incorrect answers to narrow answer choices, the famous process of elimination, and compare each choice to the passage to find the correct choice. Okay? So here's some general skills. Now, let's go on to the writing section. Part 1 presents a simple situation or topic which you will use to write a short note or letter of 50 to 75 words. You will type an answer using the keyboard. You have 5 minutes to complete this task. In writing Part 2, you will write an essay of 175 to 225 words, maximum 250 words, expressing an opinion on the given topic. You should remember to give reasons and examples to support your opinion. You will type an answer using the keyboard. The examinee will have 20 minutes to complete this task. So in total, you have 25 minutes for the writing section. Now, let me give you some useful tips to improve your writing skills. And it says general aspects of good writing that will contribute to your score. And these include appropriateness for a particular purpose, vocabulary, organization and focus, development and grammar and mechanics. So you must take all of these into account when you do the writing section. Let's go on. Now, some skills for writing Part 1. The letter should be appropriate to the topic, situation, and addressee. Do not spend much time deciding which book to write about. Pick an enjoyable book and think about what makes it enjoyable. Write a few notes. You can type them quickly on the screen and then replace them with a response. Main idea and purpose of letter is stated in the first sentence. Sentence structure and word choice are varied. This is very important, so your writing will not be boring. The message is clear. There are no serious problems with grammar and mechanics that impede understanding. So basically here what's important is understanding. So if there are few mistakes that do not impede understanding, that's okay. But if there are serious problems with this that does not allow the person that is reading to understand what you are writing, well, then you're going to have problems. Okay? And finally, supporting details are given. including the main character, the setting, and the lessons that the reader learned. And here we have an example of the type of topic that you will have to write about. And let's look at this example. It says, think of your favorite book. Write a note to the author telling him or her that you are a big fan. And here we have a sample response. I'm going to leave this on the screen for a little while so you can read it on your own. Okay, let's go on. Now we have the skills for writing part 2. There we have an example. Now, in reading part 2, the response will be evaluated on how well the position is expressed and argued, not what the position is. So it does not matter what your position is. The important thing is that how it is expressed and argued. Okay, so part 2 assesses your ability to express, develop, and support a position, and to maintain focus, unity, and organization throughout a longer piece of writing. Okay? And the main idea should be clearly stated and should answer what is asked. Support should be sufficient, specific, and relevant. The organization should be logical and easy for the reader to follow. Word choice, mechanics, and grammar should be adequate to express the meaning clearly without losing, distracting, or puzzling the reader. And use paragraphing and transitions to show how ideas relate to each other and to the main thesis. And here we have an example of the type of topic you will see in writing part 2. And let's take a look at this example. It says some countries offer students internships to help them gain work experience. Others argue that this takes valuable time away from the student's education. What do you think? Give reasons and examples to support your opinion. And here we have a sample response. This is a longer response, so later on you can go back to the video and read it carefully to see what is expected of you, what kind of response you should give in this part of the writing section. Okay? All right. Let's go on. Okay. Let's go to the speaking section. Okay? And in speaking, we have 2 parts, takes 5 minutes. In part 1, you will hear a question and read it on the screen. You will then have 30 seconds to prepare an answer and 45 seconds to speak. In part 2, you will only hear, not read, a statement giving 2 different opinions on a topic. The examinee, or you, will have then 45 seconds to prepare. There are no right or wrong answers or opinions. Errors in grammar, word choice, organization, pronunciation, tone, and ease affect the overall quality and therefore the score to the degree that they get in the way of clear communication. Again, the aim is to determine the examinee's ability to communicate clearly in spoken English. So the important thing is that you can communicate clearly in spoken English. Now, let's take a look at some general tips of spoken language, and that will contribute to your score. And general aspects of spoken language that will contribute to your score include many of the same features as in writing. You will notice this. Appropriateness for a particular purpose. Vocabulary. Organization and focus. Development. Grammar and mechanics. Pronunciation. Ease and tone. Okay? Now, let's watch a video that talks about the ITEP conversation exam.
ITEP headquarters. I'm Marielle Marquette. I am the Director of Operations, and I am here today to tell you about our newest product in the ITEP lineup, ITEP Conversation. ITEP Conversation is appropriate for English language learners of all ages and all levels of proficiency. Rather than a rigorous academic environment which can lead to anxiety and nervousness, ITEP Conversation allows speakers of any level of proficiency to speak about the things that they know best, their friends, their family, and their daily routines. ITEP Conversation is a 30-minute test delivered online and is always graded by live human graders who are native English speakers and have many years of experience in the field of ESL. The ITEP Conversation exam seeks to isolate the speaking and listening skills involved in everyday conversations which people have when meeting a new friend or going into an interview for the first time. The test mimics the type of conversational questions that come up between new friends, like, tell me about your family. Do you have brothers and sisters? And as you go through the test, it gets progressively harder in order to allow those students who are more fluent to really show what they know. Upon completion of the ITEP Conversation exam, each tester will receive a detailed score report highlighting their strengths and weaknesses. The score report is an important part of why ITEP Conversation was created. Where many other tests just give you a score or a number, this test was designed to give detailed feedback as well as advice for areas of improvement. So every score report also includes a study guide at the end, which will give you some tips on how you can improve in certain areas. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video today. If you'd like to find out more about ITEP Conversation, please visit the ITEP website at www.itepexam.com.
Okay, now, after you've seen this video, this is the way it appears on the actual exam. And it says, directions. You will both hear and read a question about school life. Answer the question giving specific reasons and examples that support your answer. After you hear the question, you will have 30 seconds to prepare your answer and 45 seconds to speak. The topic, after you complete your studies, what kind of work do you want to do? And there on the screen it says prepare, and you have, well, now 29 seconds, and then it prompts you to speak, and it shows you how many seconds you have. That's 45 seconds. Okay, so this is the way it appears on the screen. Now, let's go back here let me explain a little bit what happens or what's expected in speaking part 1. Speaking part 1 asks for a brief response to a getting to know you type of question. 30 seconds are given for preparation and 45 seconds for speaking a response. Make sure to use the preparation time to plan the basic ideas you wish to make. As in the writing exercise, do not waste much time deciding on a topic. Choose something you will enjoy talking about. Okay? So that's for speaking part 1. For speaking part 2, speaking part 2 requires a longer response that states and argues for an opinion. This is similar to writing part 2, which requires a persuasive essay. As in writing, it does not matter which opinion is argued for, as long as it is prepared and supported with reasons and examples. Another important difference between speaking part 1 and part 2 is that you will only hear but not see the statement script or prompt. Active listening to the statement script is important to doing well on this section. Okay, now let's look at some tips to improve your speaking skills. Okay, now we have practice speaking in English as often as possible. Talk to native or fluent English speakers and ask them if they understand you. Listen to English language radio and watch TV. Try to match your pronunciation after what is heard. Practice speaking into a tape recorder, then listen to the response to improve clearness. Review the descriptions of speaking levels in the ITEP Ability Guide. Know the directions and question types beforehand. In part 1, the question is written on screen as well as spoken to the examinee. In part 2, the question is only spoken to the examinee. Do not waste time deciding on a topic. Use the preparation time to plan the points to make in the speech. Take notes, especially for part 2. Try to answer the question fully in the time allowed. Use transition words to make the main idea and supporting points of the speech clear to the listener. Give specific details and examples to support and develop the main point. Use words precisely. And speak slowly and calmly. Your response will be evaluated on how clearly your opinion is spoken. Your response must be relevant to the topic. You should choose a subject that answers the question and says as much as possible in answer to what was asked. You must speak loudly and clearly. A good tip is to imagine that you are speaking to someone you know. The answer should be spoken so that the person could understand the answer, understand your opinion, and why you feel that way. Okay? And this is the end of this lesson. I hope all the information that you have received is useful. Thank you very much for your presence, and I will be seeing you soon.